For 3 years, she struggled, repeatedly reaching out to her husband for help, but he ignored her pleas. Before we continue, please remember to like, share and subscribe. The house was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards beneath her feet. She sat alone on the worn couch, her hand resting gently on her swollen belly, feeling the faint movements of the life growing inside her. Outside, the world went on. Busy, vibrant, and full of noise, but inside these four walls, she was trapped in a quiet, suffocating loneliness. For months now, she had reached out to her husband, desperate for connection and support. Her calls often went unanswered, messages left unread, and when she did find the courage to visit him, she was met with cold indifference or distracted excuses. He was never truly present. Instead, her husband's attention was fixed elsewhere. On his beloved companion, someone who seemed to fill the space she had once hoped to share. Each unanswered call sent a ripple of pain through her chest, a reminder of the distance growing between them. Nights stretched endlessly, filled with whispered hopes and silent tears. She questioned herself, was she imagining the neglect, or had the man she loved truly turned his back on her and their unborn child? The betrayal cut deep, but she forced herself to hold on to the fragile thread of hope that things might change. Her body carried the proof of their bond, a small miracle growing inside her, yet she felt more alone than ever. The house felt colder, the walls closing in, and her heart ached with the weight of abandonment. Still, she clung to her child, drawing strength from the life she carried. This child was her reason to endure, her motivation to keep fighting even when the silence threatened to swallow her whole. As days blurred into nights, she wrestled with conflicting emotions, love, despair, hope, and fear. The future was uncertain, but she was determined to protect her baby, no matter the cost. Alone but unbroken, she waited for the day her husband might see her pain and choose to stand beside her. Until then, she would face the silence, carrying her struggle quietly in the depths of her heart. The afternoon sun filtered softly through the curtains as she moved quietly through the house, her mind preoccupied with thoughts of the future and the life growing inside her. Seeking a moment of peace, she decided to tidy the living room, a small attempt to bring order to the chaos she felt within. As she picked up her husband's phone, which had been left unattended on the coffee table, a sudden curiosity overwhelmed her, urging her to glance at the screen. Her heart skipped a beat as a message notification popped up. Hesitantly, she unlocked the device and began scrolling. What she found shattered her world in an instant, texts filled with affectionate words, plans for secret meetings, and declarations of love directed not at her, but at another woman. Photos accompanied the messages. Smiling faces, intimate moments captured in stolen time. Her husband's devotion was laid bare in these digital pages, undeniable and brutal. The room seemed to close in around her as shock washed over her like a cold wave. Her breath caught, and for a moment, she felt as if the ground beneath her had crumbled away. The camera focuses tightly on her face, the widening of her eyes, the tightening of her jaw, the trembling of her lips, as the realization sinks in. Years of hope and trust, now fractured by betrayal. But instead of anger or immediate confrontation, a complex swirl of emotions settled within her. Confusion mingled with sorrow, and a heavy sense of responsibility pressed on her chest. Her unborn child, the fragile life she carried, became the anchor that held her back from reacting impulsively. She needed to maintain a fragile stability, to protect the little hope she had left. Later, she overheard a quiet conversation between her husband and his companion, a soft exchange of words full of affection and plans, confirming what the messages had already revealed. The betrayal was no longer just a suspicion, it was painfully real and unyielding. Yet, she remained silent, retreating into herself, weighing the consequences of every possible choice. Her eyes, once filled with trust and love, now flickered with the beginnings of doubt and resolve. The camera lingers on her thoughtful, conflicted expression, a woman torn between heartbreak and the fierce instinct to shield her unborn child from pain. She knew the path ahead would not be easy, but for now, she chose patience and strength over confrontation. The days blurred together in a relentless cycle of hope and heartbreak. Each morning, she reached for her phone with a trembling hand, hoping, just this once, to hear his voice, to feel a connection that had long since frayed. She dialed his number repeatedly, the ringing tone echoing through the empty rooms of their home, only to be met with silence. Calls went unanswered, the screen showing nothing but missed calls and unopened messages. Her texts were carefully crafted pleas, soft and vulnerable, each one a fragile thread cast out in search of a response. "Please, I need you," she typed one evening, her fingers hovering hesitantly before hitting send. Hours passed with no reply. Another message followed, more urgent, more desperate, but it was as if she were speaking into a void. The blue ticks appeared, indicating he had read her words, but no answer came. She tried visiting him, hoping that face-to-face contact might break through the wall of coldness that had grown between them. Each visit was met with averted eyes, clipped responses, or outright dismissal. Once, she waited outside his office for an hour, clutching her growing belly, only to be sent away by a terse assistant. Another time, she showed up at his favorite cafe, but he left without a word, slipping away with his beloved companion by his side. With every rejection, her heart ached a little more. The loneliness seeped deeper, turning into a cold, gnawing despair that shadowed her every step. She was surrounded by silence, a silence that screamed louder than any words could. The warmth she once felt in his presence was replaced by a chilling emptiness, and the weight of being ignored pressed heavily on her spirit. Yet, beneath the pain, a stubborn hope remained. For her child's sake, she refused to give up. She whispered promises in the dark, reassuring the baby inside her that they would find a way through this, that she would be strong enough to carry them both. But the nights grew longer and colder, and her strength felt stretched thin. The montage of unanswered calls, ignored messages, and cold encounters unfolds with mounting tension. The camera captures her tear-streaked face, the weary slump of her shoulders, the trembling hands that clutch her phone like a lifeline. Her isolation becomes palpable, the erosion of her support system evident in every frame. Despite the growing void between them, she continues to reach out, driven by love and desperation. The sequence closes with her sitting alone in a dimly lit room, the soft glow of her phone illuminating her face as she sends yet another message. The words, "Please don't forget me," linger on the screen, an echo of her pain and an unspoken plea for the connection she craves. The house was cloaked in the soft shadows of twilight, the fading light slipping through the curtains as she sat quietly by the window. The silence around her was thick, broken only by the faint ticking of a clock and the steady rhythm of her breath. Earlier that day, another call had gone unanswered, another message ignored. The sting of rejection was sharper than ever, her husband's cold indifference had cut deeper, leaving her feeling more isolated and vulnerable than she ever thought possible. She placed a gentle hand on her swollen belly, feeling the reassuring flutter of the tiny life growing inside her. It was a quiet reminder that despite the pain, despite the loneliness, she was not truly alone. The weight of her future pressed down on her, not just for herself, but for this fragile child who depended on her strength. The responsibility was immense, almost overwhelming, but it sparked a fierce determination deep within her. Tears welled in her eyes as she allowed herself a moment to grieve the love she had lost, the family that had fractured. But as the tears fell, something else began to grow, a quiet fire of resolve. She realized that endurance was no longer enough. She needed to reclaim herself, to find her dignity and agency again, not just as a mother but as a woman who refused to be defined by neglect and abandonment. In this intimate moment, she made a silent vow. For her child, she would endure the hardship. She would be the shelter from the storm, the unwavering pillar of strength that the baby could depend on. But she would also fight for her own freedom, to live without fear, without the shadows of betrayal hanging over her. She would no longer allow herself to be silenced or sidelined. The camera lingers on her face, capturing the shift from sorrow to strength, the soft determination settling into her eyes. Her posture straightens, the slump of despair slowly giving way to the steady confidence of someone who has found her purpose. The quiet room becomes a sanctuary, a space where she can gather her courage and prepare for the battle ahead. Her fingers brush the small bracelet on her wrist, an old gift from her mother, a symbol of resilience passed down through generations. It feels like a talisman now, a reminder that she carries not just the life inside her but the strength of those who came before. As the sun sets beyond the window, the scene closes with her rising from the chair, a subtle but unmistakable change in her demeanor. The woman who had once been broken by neglect is now ready to face whatever comes next. She steps forward, not just for herself, but for the child who is already teaching her the true meaning of courage. The day she brought her newborn baby home should have been filled with joy and hope. The sun streamed gently through the windows, casting a warm glow over the familiar rooms that once felt like a sanctuary. But as she stepped across the threshold, cradling her child close, the warmth was nowhere to be found. The house was cold, the air heavy with silence and unspoken tensions. She searched her husband's face for any sign of the love they once shared, some flicker of acknowledgement for the life they had created together. But his eyes were distant, guarded, and devoid of the tenderness she longed for. Instead of welcoming her return, he met her with a cold, stony expression, his body language closed off and unyielding. Her heart ached, but she had no illusions left. The years of neglect and betrayal had hardened their relationship beyond repair. Summoning every ounce of courage, she made a decision that had been quietly forming in her mind since the day she first discovered his betrayal. She would no longer endure the silence or the pain. For her sake and her child's, she would break free. The divorce papers lay on the kitchen table, a clear, irrevocable statement of her resolve. She handed them to him without hesitation, her voice steady despite the storm swirling inside her. The room seemed to shrink as the weight of her declaration filled the space, challenging the fragile peace they had maintained for too long. But instead of relief, her husband's reaction was chilling. He refused to accept the divorce. His cold refusal was not just an act of defiance, it was a brutal reminder of the emotional and legal battles she now faced. His stance sent a clear message: he was determined to keep her trapped, to deny her the freedom she desperately sought. The confrontation was raw and charged with years of unspoken resentment and pain. Their words were sharp, cutting through the silence that had once been filled with hope and promises. She stood firm, her resolve unwavering, even as the magnitude of the fight ahead became clear. The emotional scars of their fractured relationship were laid bare, and the legal barriers loomed like an unyielding wall between her and the life she dreamed of. Yet, amidst the tension and heartbreak, there was a quiet strength in her eyes. She was no longer the woman who had endured neglect and betrayal in silence. She was a mother fighting for a future. One where her child would grow up free from the shadows of their broken past. As the scene closes, the camera lingers on her determined expression, the tiny fingers of her baby curling around hers, symbolizing the bond that fuels her courage. Though the road ahead is uncertain and fraught with challenges, she has taken the first step toward reclaiming her life, ready to face whatever comes next with resilience and hope. The fight for freedom was just beginning, and she knew it wouldn't be easy. The moment she handed her husband the divorce papers, a new chapter unfolded, one filled with uncertainty, legal battles, and emotional turmoil. But beneath the weight of it all, a fierce determination burned inside her. This was no longer just about escaping a cold and neglectful marriage, it was about reclaiming her life and building a future for her child, free from pain and fear. Her first step was seeking legal advice. Sitting in the small, brightly lit office of a compassionate lawyer, she listened intently as her options were explained. The legal process was complicated and slow, filled with obstacles designed to protect both parties but often weighing heavily on the one who dared to break free. Her husband's refusal to grant the divorce added a thorny layer of resistance, threatening to prolong her suffering. Yet, with every question she asked and every document she signed, she felt her strength grow. The lawyer's words gave her hope and a roadmap, and she clung to it tightly. She wasn't alone in this fight. Friends and family, once distant, rallied around her, offering support and encouragement. Their presence was a balm to her weary spirit, a reminder that she didn't have to endure this battle in isolation. Meanwhile, her husband's stubbornness remained unyielding. Despite the evidence of his neglect and betrayal, he dug in his heels, refusing to concede. His cold-hearted defiance was a stark contrast to the resilience blossoming within her. Every refusal, every dismissal, only strengthened her resolve to see this through to the end. The scene unfolds with a palpable tension, her quiet determination against his silent resistance. She juggles the overwhelming emotions of fear, anger, and hope, each day bringing new challenges but also small victories. Her once fragile spirit becomes a shield of steel, forged in the fires of adversity. The camera captures her late-night conversations with friends, the supportive embraces, and the moments of solitary reflection where she steels herself for what lies ahead. Her resolve is a beacon in the darkness, illuminating a path forward. She learns to navigate the complexities of the legal system with grace and courage, refusing to be intimidated or silenced. Every step, no matter how small, is a triumph. A declaration that she will not be held captive by a broken marriage or a heartless husband. As the scene closes, the viewer senses the rising momentum of her journey. The battle is far from over, but her spirit remains unbroken. She fights not just for herself, but for the child she loves, a symbol of hope and new beginnings. In this struggle for freedom, she discovers a strength she never knew she had, transforming pain into power and despair into determination. The morning sun filtered gently through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the small apartment where she was beginning to build a new life. The air was filled with the soft sounds of her baby's laughter and the comforting hum of everyday routines that once seemed impossible. Here, in this modest space, she was learning to embrace freedom and hope, weaving a future from the threads of pain and resilience. Becoming a single mother was a daunting journey, but every day brought moments of joy that made the struggle worthwhile. She held her child close, feeling the steady heartbeat against her chest, a constant reminder of why she had fought so hard. Their bond deepened with each passing day, growing stronger and more unbreakable. In her eyes, the child was not only a source of love but also a symbol of renewal and strength. Surrounding her was a circle of support. Friends who had stood by her through the darkest moments, family members who offered comforting words and practical help. Their presence was a lifeline, a reminder that she was never truly alone, even when the nights felt long and the challenges seemed insurmountable. With their encouragement, she began to reclaim her identity beyond the pain, rediscovering dreams she had once put aside. She found small victories in the everyday. Preparing meals, sharing bedtime stories, and even returning to work, determined to create a stable future for herself and her child. Each step forward was a triumph over the past, a testament to her resilience. The scars of betrayal and heartbreak remained, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they fueled her determination to build a life filled with love and possibility. Though the battle with her estranged husband was not yet fully resolved, it no longer consumed her. She had found the strength to set boundaries and protect her newfound peace. Her smile, once rare and tentative, now radiated confidence and hope. It was a smile born of survival and empowerment, a quiet declaration that she was reclaiming her life on her own terms. The camera captures these moments of transformation, the soft glow of dawn illuminating her face as she watches her child play, the laughter shared with friends, the quiet reflection during a peaceful evening alone. These scenes paint a picture of healing and growth, a woman who has turned pain into power and uncertainty into courage. As the scene draws to a close, the viewer is left with a profound sense of hope. This is not just a story of struggle but of triumph, of a woman who refused to be defined by her past and chose instead to embrace a future filled with promise. Her journey is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a celebration of resilience, courage, and the enduring power of love. In this new chapter, she is no longer just surviving, she is thriving. The road ahead may still hold challenges, but she faces them with unwavering determination and a heart full of hope. This is her story, a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, light can be found, and a new life can be embraced. If you enjoyed the story, please remember to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.